Hello and welcome everyone. So, E3 is pretty much just around the corner for us all, and I figured to myself, you know what, why don't I do something to really celebrate this. Now, last year I ended up doing a video where I was sort of listing out the top 10 games that I felt impressed me the most out of the whole show, and you know what, I figured I'd do something a bit more in-depth, you know, but still a little less editing and stuff to do about. So, for you all today in this video, I'm going to be listing over all the press conferences. I'm going to be talking about all the pros, the cons that I'm expecting to get out of them, and just a few predictions as well as to what I'm pretty sure is going to happen, you know, because let's be honest, there's been some details that have come out about games we're expecting to see. Some games that might happen, and sort of some might happen which I'm just really basing on the fact that it seems right in terms of timing and stuff like that. And honestly, just a few stuff I'm throwing in there that might happen, might not happen and stuff, and some of these are the ones that I'm honestly just hoping to see, you know. Now I'm going to end up doing a post E3 video after the week of E3 is done, and we'll end up seeing how much of what I said actually came out as true, and what just ended up coming out as pure bullshit, you know. So we'll see how that goes. But for today, let's just dive into what I'm expecting to happen with E3. So let's start off right away with EA, shall we? Now, I'm not gonna lie with you all, EA has not been having the best last few years at E3, particularly the last one, which it's kind of weird off because, you know, it was there wasn't technically at E3, it was at their own event that just happened to be a day before E3, so, you know, it's like it's still technically over, but whatever, you know. I feel the problem is the fact that they even though they'll have a big game and stuff like Battlefield 1 or Titanfall 2, the problem is just that nothing really surprises us much from the stuff. We get a lot of, you know, we get some fun games here and there and stuff, but there's always a lot of bloated stuff in between. And always happens a lot of times because they have to, of course, get into all the sports games that they have in development, and let's be honest here, a lot of us are not interested in that kind of stuff. And even if you are a fan of FIFA, Madden, and NBA and all that kind of stuff, let's be honest here, do you really care too much about all the improvements that have come from it? So do you really want to know that the ball moves 10 times faster or something like that, or is more, you know, it's I don't know. Like, I'm curious to know what people actually kind of want to see stuff, or whether they just like say, you just show me a trailer, bing bang boom, done, okay? Now, one of the things EA has, of course, is Star Wars, and we know that we obviously are going to get Star Wars Battlefront 2 being shown off, and honestly, I'll be honest, I really just hope that we can finally get to see what Visual Games' Star Wars game is going to be like. It hopefully might end up being a sort of a similar to the cancelled Star Wars 1313, which, for those of you who don't know, was a very Uncharted-like Star Wars game, and one of the things that kind of pushes forward this idea that it might be like that is the fact that Amy Hennig, who used to work at Naughty Dog with games like Uncharted 2 and the like, is working on this game. So there's maybe a presumed idea that maybe it's going to be like that, and I'm all for that, you know. Would really love to see that. There's a chance that we'll maybe get to see a bit of what Respawn, the guys who did Titanfall, what their game will be, Star Wars game will be like. We know it's in development stuff. I'm gonna guess it's maybe a sort of vehicle-based game, perhaps, just because we've already got a shooter game. So why would we want to have two Star Wars Battlefronts? You know, so it makes that sense in that context. You know, or maybe something completely different. Who knows? There's a possibility we might get some news from BioWare of what their new IP is. I'm guessing we might end up just getting a tiny bit of it, just because they want to maybe push away all the kind of bad press that, of course, Mass Effect Andromeda's been getting, and they want to say, we're back on our ball, we're not got our heads hung down, we are moving forward with something brand new that hopefully will get a bit more redemption out of us. Overall, in my opinion, EA just needs to prove that they are worth my attention, so that I'm not just going to just wait later and see all the Star Wars stuff. I want to really feel like that there isn't going to be this void in the middle that's just going to completely just blank me out entirely. So hopefully everything goes well with that. Moving on now, of course, with Microsoft. Now, of course, Microsoft has the biggest card in their deck with Scorpio coming out this year, and there is a part of me that feels like, okay, we obviously want to know what this product is going to be like, what is going to really push it beyond just being just an improved Xbox One, you know. And granted, the specs have come out, which I haven't really taken into much, really dug into it much, because I'm not a big tech-heavy person, so I don't really have much opinion on it. The thing is though, is that what I really do hope is that Xbox learns from Sony from last year, in that they just gave us games. They gave us what we want, and that is games. And Microsoft have this problem where they have to always kind of interject and stuff, always have to spend time talking a bit about and stuff, like just show us the games and stuff. And the problem, of course, with the fact that Scorpio is going to be there, they're going to be explaining, feels like it could really just sort of have us there, just like, okay, we just want fast stuff all the time. And Sony also proved and stuff that, you know, a long press conference does not equate to you having lots, okay? Showing us games proves that you have a lot to show us. I really hope that they can maybe just get Scorpio out right away to say, hey, here's what it looks like, here's the box, here's games that are going to work in it, shows game, and then finally end it off with a price and a date. Okay, as to what the date and price will be, I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to come out in November time. You know, it's usually the time when Xbox One came out at that time, and plus it's Black Friday, sales are always kind of big for that kind of thing. Though, as for the price, I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably going to be roughly about $499, and some of you might say, why am I saying dollars if I'm clearly English and stuff? I'm just saying dollars really just because they like to go for round numbers for like the US market and stuff like that, and the difference between pounds and dollars varies and stuff on different things. It's not just putting in the dollars and putting it there. So either way and stuff, the fact remains though is that I'm guessing it's going to be the price, primarily because it was the same price as the Xbox One when it first came out, and I think if they went beyond that and stuff, it might just get people a little too mixed and stuff on it. It's just like saying it's just improved hardware with the potential to have Oculus, which not many people still have Oculus, and could very well still not have. Many people could have Oculus by the time the console comes out, so might not be that important by that point. Hopefully we will get some new stuff out this E3 that really will impress us and stuff. We know that Halo's not going to be there apparently, so that's one thing and stuff to think and stuff. But I want to see new games come out of it. Don't just say that, hey, here's some of our old games, they look slightly better now and stuff, because I think that's not really much of an interesting thing to really show us and stuff like that. I feel two games though that probably could really push that forward is with Sea of Thieves and Crackdown 3. Now, both of these games are very social-like games, at least in part, with, you know, Crackdown sort of saying it's got this whole cloud storing thing where it can basically you and your friends playing around this whole city, just blowing up stuff like crazy and stuff. That sounds like a really good fun time, honestly. And of course with Sea of Thieves and stuff, it's looking to be this really big adventure game with you and your friends just going around in a ship, just doing all sorts of stuff. So this whole social aspect is something I think Xbox really owned with the Xbox 360. Of course, it's something they kind of what really brought the Xbox 360 above sort of the PlayStation back then. So if they can kind of bring this out, I think that's a really good step forward for the Scorpio and stuff. And if that's also kind of the reason why I do believe that both games are going to be coming out around the same time as Scorpio, to really kind of put in this kind of package deal with the console and say that you can this experience is just so much better with Scorpio. You push that forward and that's a good sell. So overall and stuff, I really feel like Xbox needs to kind of impress us with the games and stuff, and not distract us too much with the Scorpio at the time. Scorpio is an important thing, of course, but, you know, still focus on, because let's be honest here, Xbox has been having a bit of a image problem with their lack of games and stuff. Yes, they have Halo, they have Gears, they have Forza, but those are still things that have been from last generation as well. The only real things new to come out this generation have really just been Sunset Overdrive and Ori and the Blind Forest. Yes, you've had things like Tomb Raider and Inside, but those have come to PS4 now. You've still got things like Cuphead, of course, and State of Decay and stuff, though Cuphead has certainly been disappearing for a while. I'm going to assume that game's going to be coming out in a few months after E3. But they need to remind us that they are not just there for their own audience, they are there for everyone. So I do hope they can make a comeback with that, you know, and they have got advantages, of course, with things like backwards compatibility, and hopefully the Scorpio, which I do hope will not be just called Xbox One something as up. It will be called Xbox something completely new, to make it show that this is a new start for them, because they really do need it, I feel like, at this point. Moving on next to Bethesda, of course. Now, Bethesda have only been in this for a few years now, as and let's be honest here, they had a great start with their first press conference 2 years ago. And that was primarily, of course, because they had one hell of a big game out of that time, which was Fallout 4, which, you know, we were all hyped for and stuff, and really did really I felt like delivered a great sort of press conference and stuff. Really was giving us lots of stuff and lots of information, and the fact that it was coming out in that same year was also a really big get for them and stuff like that. So I feel that really was cementing as a good start for them and stuff. Last year, however, I felt like there wasn't too much of that and stuff. We had things like Dishonored 2 and a few things here and there and stuff like that, but nothing really else and stuff. So the question, of course, remains that can they go back to that first one, of course, giving us a whole press conference that's just fully on the map and stuff like that, or are they going to try and is it going to be a little bit too similar to the last one? Now, granted, we know that we're going to probably be getting the Evil Within 2 and the next Wolfenstein games coming from them. So it's just been rumoured, but I'm just going to assume they are coming out, going to be announced there, particularly Wolfenstein, because it was hinted at last year that they were going to be making it. Now, some people might ask, is there going to be perhaps some Elder Scrolls shown off there? And, you know, they've had this whole thing of going Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and I'm going to go on a limb here and say probably not, okay? Because I feel like they want to follow from the same strategy as before, where they have about 5 months before it comes out, or something like that, which is a really good tactic, I feel like, and stuff. And the fact that we haven't heard any peep at all about this game coming out kind of indicates that it probably isn't. That being said, if it does, I will be fully surprised, and it would make this this Christmas quite packed, and I'll show you. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if that does or does not happen. So however, I'm putting my money on it is not happening. There are other things, of course. We might get some story DLC for Dishonored 2, which might happen and stuff, just so they can have an excuse to have a Game of the Year edition of the game, because I don't think it sold too well and stuff, which I feel like it could deserve a bit more praise from it and stuff. But besides that and stuff, there's not really much else to talk about and stuff. Just try and capture the same amount with that first press conference, not so much in the second. Moving on now with Ubisoft. Now, I have to be honest, I feel like Ubisoft's problem is almost like the exact opposite of EA's, where EA feels like they're trying to pad out the things too much, while Ubisoft, well, they are still kind of padding out with some things. Stuff. Like last year, they had the whole Star Trek bit and stuff, which felt like it was going on for a bit long. I still, however, feel like the big problem they have is that they have too many games all the time. This could be a problem because some types of their games tend to blend in together, particularly the ones that have Tom Clancy's name written on them. So, honestly, I do hope that we maybe get something real fresh this time, and when we actually have their big part at the end and stuff like that. I'll be honest, things like Wildland, Steep, these games just have not really been that impressive. You know, they just been like, it's another shooter game, it's another snowboarding game. We need something that really does kind of wow us. Now, it is pretty much all but confirmed we are going to get an Assassin's Creed game. You know, it couldn't be more obvious that we're going to have that come out and stuff, which hopefully is apparently being Egyptian themed, which would be interesting. You know, my feelings on Assassin's Creed series has definitely been on a mixed feeling for a good long while now, but this might be something to really bring me back into it all. We should be getting apparently Far Cry 4, which apparently is going to be Wild West themed, which would be interesting, you know, though considering the fact that we already have a huge Wild West game coming out in apparently a few months' time, it's going to have to come out pretty soon so it doesn't completely get overshadowed by it. I'm going to go ahead and say we're probably going to get another Rainbow Six Siege game come out, and it is possible that we might also get another Splinter Cell game, primarily because of the fact that they are still going ahead with this Splinter Cell movie, so naturally it might help to remind us that the series does still exist, you know, to get people a bit hyped up for it. And you never know, there might be a case that we might get a return from Rayman, which would be freaking awesome. And you never know, just like slight possibility that maybe we get Beyond Good and Evil 2 brought back to us, which would be very, very good as well, I think, you know. Probably won't happen that. Next up we have Sony, and there's quite a few things to talk about with what could possibly be showing up this year. Now, certain things that I'm sure will show up and stuff. We're going to get more God of War, which looks all really awesome. I've talked about before about how I'm really, really looking forward to this new entry to the series, and I haven't really been the hugest God of War fan. It's likely we'll probably see more of Days Gone and Spider-Man, which Spider-Man apparently is going to maybe be coming out this year, which would be good because I feel like Sony needs to kind of show us what's going to be coming out towards the end of the year. Other lots of game scores like Detroit Becoming Human, Ni no Kuni 2 would be pretty awesome to see. Really would like to see more of that. Now, I'm going to go on a limb here and just say we are not, repeat, not going to be seeing The Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding. Last of Us 2 primarily because they really hammered it in at PSX last year that the game was in early development, so we ain't going to see that for a long while. And Death Stranding, I feel like maybe Kojima's been talking too much about that game, so I am hoping that they're lowering it down and just focusing on... it'll be a while until I feel like we see some gameplay for that game. And, of course, you know, we might get a bit of PlayStation VR thrown in here and there and stuff like that. There's some people are going to wonder, of course, how much VR we see here will very much give an idea as to how much they want to really push it forward now, because I'm not too sure on where they feel like the sales are going and stuff like this in terms of how popular it is, but there's definitely a feeling of VR has been taken a bit off people's radar for quite a while now. I don't have any, of course, because I'm poor as shit, but I'm still interested to see where things could go with this all. I just hope, of course, that things aren't completely dropped and stuff. Show me something a game that maybe has played from the full, from start to finish and stuff, that is improved with VR and stuff like that, and is not just some distraction for a good few seconds, something like that. Prove to me that it is worthy to be at the price that it is, and that it is something to stay and not just a temporary distraction. Okay. In terms of a strategy that I feel PlayStation need to go with, just go with what you did last year. Just give us one hell of a show. If you want to bring out the orchestra, I am no problem with that whatsoever. That orchestra at the beginning was one of the best moments at E3 I've ever seen. Honestly, it was just such a great. I love orchestral music, so naturally I'm a sucker for it. Some people might have been like, just get to the game already and stuff. I felt was a good build up in my opinion. Okay, if it's done right, so celebrities, you know, musicians, you know, orchestral music of a game that we haven't even seen yet and stuff, but just sounds awesome. Thumbs up from me. But overall and stuff, just go with that and stuff like that. Give in some surprises here and there and stuff like that, and just give us more of what we love, and that is the games. Coming up near to the end, we have Nintendo. Now, last year, of course, Nintendo decided to take a more simple approach by just having really 2 games. That really was just kind of one and stuff like that, because, you know, we kind of already saw a bit of Pokemon and stuff like that beforehand, but we, of course, with Zelda was taking up a huge amount of it and stuff, and I feel like that was a decision of saying they didn't really have much they wanted. The Switch, of course, wasn't announced by that point and stuff, so they were still just really trying to build up a bit more with Zelda Breath of the Wild, and obviously it helped, you know, stuff. It was really one of the biggest talked about games of last year's E3. I feel like this year, of course, they don't really have, but with the exception of maybe Mario Odyssey, they don't really have a huge game to really take in that place. So, I'm interested to see what really will come of this and stuff. There is a lot of people who are hoping that the Switch is going to be this new start for Nintendo. The Wii U, of course, did have some missteps and stuff, and with the exception of a few games, wasn't really grasping in terms of like exclusive games, of course. That was really a reason to get it. So hopefully we will get to see that and stuff. We will maybe get some potential returning game franchises like maybe Metroid and stuff like that, which would be really good to see. Like I said, we're going to probably get more of Mario Odyssey. We're going to see more ARMS, more Splatoon 2 going to be shown off. More Xenoblades 2 perhaps, but I think what also matters is that we need to show that Nintendo has sort of returned a connection with all these separate other studios and stuff. We want to show that they are strong with Capcom, they are strong with Square Enix. They have got some oddball companies we wouldn't really expect to see them with, like obviously we've got things like Skyrim coming out for the Switch and stuff like that, so maybe Bethesda's got a new game that is exclusive for them and stuff. That would be really great, of course, because let's be honest here, some of their alliances with people haven't really been very lasted long. I remember back when the Wii U came out, and they were sort of showing that they had sort of this connection with Ubisoft, and we really didn't get much out of them at all. We just probably got like a few games here and there, stuff like that, and that was it really and stuff. So prove to me that, you know, the Nintendo Switch is obviously really hot right now. People are really loving it and stuff like that. So really show that, you know, you're back in business and stuff. You really have got a strong connection with all these different developers, and that it is a system that not only that people want to buy, but that developers want to work on and stuff. Because we'll have to wait by the end of the year to see just how how much I feel like this is still hot on our minds and stuff, you know, and that it will be it really will be something that will last for a good long time with Nintendo. So thank you all for tuning in. You can always check me out on Facebook and Twitter, and if you want, you can subscribe so you can make sure to catch the post video, which will come up a few days after everything's settled down and stuff. And hey, be seeing you around.